That scrappy upstart Snap finally had its day on Wall Street today, and joining us to talk about everyone's new favorite public company is Alex Kantrowitz from Buzzfeed. How's it going, Alex?
Going well. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It's great to get you back. So tell us a little bit about Snap's performance. Day one of trading today as Snap on the New York Stock Exchange. How'd it go for them?
That's right. They had an unsurprising bump. They went up from trading at 17 a share to 24 as the market opened and closed a little bit above that, leaving them with a valuation in the $30 billion range.
No big deal at all. How does this compare to other services, similar services when they IPO'd?
Well, I think that something that's worth looking at is the Wall Street Journal. They posted this blog post that said "submitted without comment" as the headline. And they posted the stock charts of Twitter, GoPro, Groupon, and Fitbit up there. And for each of those companies, it showed a bit of a spike out the gate, a small sustained period of high interest, and then each of those four fell. And they were all four of them have been labeled busts at various points of their history. So I think what the journal was trying to say was that consumer companies, when they first come out, tend to generate a high level of interest from investors. People know these companies, their kids use them, they want to get in on the hot stock. But then as the pressure of quarter earnings calls starts to build up and gets matched against those expectations, these companies tend to have a hard time on the public market, and they get caught in this spiral of, are they going to meet these expectations that Wall Street's unfairly set when they came out of the gate? And often they don't. And I think Snapchat's in the same exact bucket.
So you tweeted this Reuters article that was pretty critical of people investing in Snapchat. It said they handed their money over to an immature company and in the process abrogated their rights to fair treatment, good governance, and reasonable valuations. Do you agree with Reuters' statement, or do you think there's a little bit of ageism going on in there?
I don't think it's ageism, but I don't think Reuters is wrong to be skeptical about this stock. If you think about it, we're looking at around $400 million in revenue, losses of around $500 million, and then a valuation of $34 billion. So, do the math. Someone told me earlier today, and I think it's just about right, that if Facebook was valued, if you valued Snapchat on the same multiples as you do Facebook, the stock would be at $4, not $24. So I do think that investors got a little bit carried away today. There's really, in my opinion, no other way to look at it. This company is facing an uphill battle against Facebook and Google for ad dollars. It doesn't have the same reach. It doesn't have the same data as the other two. And for those thinking that with its current offering, it's going to be able to challenge them, well, I got news for them. Advertisers across the board aren't planning to spend anywhere near the same levels. So where you end up at $34 billion, I don't know.
Now, we've heard in the last couple of days the market is super hot right now, just in general, incredibly strong. Was that part of a factor, at least a factor in Snap's debut? And does that even matter in the long run, if so?
So it was absolutely, hard to tell, right? But I believe it was absolutely a factor in Snap's debut. At the end of the day, though, it still leaves it at $34 billion in value that it's going to have to justify over time. So you'd almost, if you're Snapchat, you'd almost want to go public in a bear market, right? Because then instead of, you can sort of ride the tide of the market as it goes upwards, and people will say good things when your stock goes up. Now, if it's coming out, let's say this is the height, right? If it's coming out now, it's going to have a much harder time trying to explain what's happening when the market settles down a little bit. Hey, your stock went down, and what happened there? Well, what's Snap going to say? I don't really know.
So you wrote about a lot of the creators, social influencers leaving Snapchat, and it's an interesting piece. Everyone should read it at Buzzfeed. But what I'm wondering is that who they're really after, or do they think that they can just survive with regular people, with kids, just constantly using the service all day, every day, and they don't really care about the same people YouTube is trying to reach or Instagram is trying to reach, those influencers, those creators?
Snap tells me in the story, it's never been their focus to concentrate on these social influencers or social creators, they've always been a friends and family platform first. So that's the strategy. The strategy has never been to cater to them. But anybody that uses Snapchat knows that messaging is only part of the appeal. Think about what Facebook copied from Snapchat. The first thing they copied was stories. It wasn't messaging. The stories part of Snapchat is the really attractive part. It's the killer feature. And these influencers live within stories. People aren't spending time messaging with the influencers. They're watching their stories. They're being entertained. They go back to Snapchat, because they want to message their friends, but also because watching some content from someone like a Sean Duras or a DJ Khaled is raw, authentic, goofy, and something you can only get there. So I do think that it hasn't been part of Snapchat's core strategy, but it's also a major mistake to overlook the value of these people, because they are telling their followers, hey, come over to YouTube and watch me there. Come over to Instagram and watch me there. And that has an impact.
Yeah, that was kind of my question is if the performance of the company long-term could be affected by those sorts of defections. And who knows, maybe at some point it becomes way more important for Snap to retain and to cater to creators as other services have, where they maybe didn't initially. They realize, well, that's how you keep people. So speaking of keeping people, a big challenge for Snap, of course, is user growth. And a big part of that, I have to imagine, is kind of the international markets, growing into international markets. How big of a challenge is that right now? Is that going to be a big hurdle for Snap over the next couple of years, trying to prove itself?
This is going to be an enormous hurdle, and it's not just about proving itself. It's about, can it technically move in other markets? So first thing we got to talk about when we discuss this is Snapchat has poor performance on Android. And while iPhone is really popular in the US, Android is really popular elsewhere. So how are you going to go to markets and say, we want you to use our app, but the app doesn't work that well? So that's going to be a key challenge. And they've said that developing for Android and making Android better is going to be a priority. Okay, but we have to see what they do before we're going to say that this actually can work. The other thing that we should all pay attention to is the fact that they're in some of these international markets, they're really behind where they should be. So you can take a market like South Korea, where a messaging app called Snow, which is basically a one-to-one ripoff of Snapchat, has taken off. How is Snapchat going to go in and build a network in a place like South Korea if an app like Snow is doing the same exact job and has already built a network there? That's going to be extremely difficult. So expanding internationally is not going to be a piece of cake for this company either.
And finally, you wrote another article, I believe this was yesterday, about Snap's neighbors in its Venice, California home base. Basically, they're growing hostile to the company's success. Why is that? What's going on there?
That's right. I wrote 2 articles about it, and I actually spent a week in Venice learning about the company and watching what was going on with its neighbors. What you see when you're down there is a neighborhood that is still the vibrant, quirky, weird place that it's been for a long time. And it has a very storied history, and it's gone through multiple transitions. But you also see buildings dotted throughout Venice with frosted glass, no logos, security guards outside. And many of these buildings used to be, well, not many, but a number of them used to be, they used to be establishments that the community would frequent. So there's a bar on Market Street in Venice called Nicky's that shut down, and now it's a cafeteria for Snapchat employees. You go to restaurants, and they have sign-in sheets where Snap employees come in, they sign in, they show their badge, and they eat there. So they've become de facto corporate cafeterias. And then there are security guards. Not only are they in front of the buildings, but they're riding around the community on bicycles with these polos, and they have a stitch, they say snapping security on the chest. And they've had run-ins with more than one Venice, longtime Venice resident, at least the ones that I spoke with. I was able to speak with multiple. So Snap is changing the fabric of Venice. And now I think it's particularly getting heated because you see they've expanded greatly over the past year and a half. They've gone from 600 employees to 1,800 in a very short time span. They've taken space in many buildings. And all these neighbors are looking at it and they're saying, well, we can't go to Nikki's anymore. And our prices, like the real estate prices and our rents are going up. And these guys, there's a jealousy factor in play. These guys, they're saying, are getting rich and leaving us with, a community that was worse off than when they got in. So Snapchat is doing some work in the community, but you do understand that, where the anger comes from when you spend some time there.
Yeah, and we've seen this in other areas. Mm-hmm. I mean, this the Silicon Valley, model applied to a different place where technology companies come in, everything else, that it pushes other people out, costs raise, home prices, everything. It shifts the market entirely. Would there be any real reason for Snap to decide to relocate its business, or it's probably not going anywhere? I have to imagine it's not going anywhere.
Well, they did tell me that they plan to, because they have to, they plan to locate future growth outside of Venice, or concentrate future growth outside of Venice. They did say that they apologize to the community for any strain that they've caused. So I think those are two big steps. And today, out of all the interviews they could have given, they spoke with the LA Times only. So I think that says something, that they're going to pay more attention to this. And the protests and the media coverage, I believe, will make them a better neighbor.